Picture this. It's the early 20th century, World War I is raging, and the Western Front is a vast network of trenches. A labyrinth carved into the very earth, it becomes home to countless soldiers. In the trenches, life is far from ordinary. Soldiers are exposed to harsh conditions, battling not only the enemy but also the elements. Constant rain, mud, and the ever-present cold. This was the stark reality of the soldiers, living in a complex maze of ditches and tunnels. Now, imagine the layout of these trenches. Picture a complex network of narrow, jagged pathways carved into the earth. The front-line trenches sat closest to the enemy. It's here where soldiers kept a vigilant watch, ready for combat at a moment's notice. Behind the front lines lay the support trenches, providing a secondary line of defense and a place for soldiers to rest and regroup. Further back, the reserve trenches were held in readiness for a potential enemy breakthrough. These trenches weren't just hastily dug ditches, they were intricate systems of fortification. However, their makeshift construction meant they were perpetually damp, with muddy walls and water-filled bottoms. Sanitation was a far-off luxury, making the trenches a breeding ground for diseases. Yet this was the reality of life for the soldiers. These were not just holes in the ground, they were homes, offices, and sometimes the final resting places for these soldiers. Life in the trenches was far from easy. Soldiers faced an endless cycle of monotony and fear. Days were filled with routines that offered little respite from the grim realities of war. Duties ranged from standing guard and cleaning weapons, to repairing the trench walls eroded by weather and bombardments. Food was scarce, often limited to rations and canned goods. Soldiers would huddle around makeshift stoves, trying to conjure up something palatable amidst the mud and the cold. But hunger was often the least of their worries. The deafening roar of artillery fire was a constant soundtrack, a reminder of the enemy lines just a few hundred yards away. Sleep was a luxury. Snatched in brief moments of quiet, it was always light, always fearful. The threat of a surprise attack was ever present, casting a long shadow over the already harrowing conditions. Every day was a battle, not just against the enemy but against the conditions of the trenches themselves. But beyond the physical hardships, the trenches took a heavy toll on the soldiers' minds and bodies. The trenches were a crucible, testing the limits of human endurance. Soldiers were subjected to the relentless cycle of brutal weather, from the biting cold of winter to the stifling heat of summer. The constant fear of gas attacks hung over them like a specter, adding another layer of terror to their daily existence. Disease was a constant companion in the trenches. The unsanitary conditions and close quarters made the spread of illness inevitable, leaving soldiers to grapple with ailments that ranged from trench foot to dysentery. But perhaps the most insidious enemy was the psychological toll. The stress of constant vigilance, the anxiety of impending attacks, and the horror of witnessing death and destruction day in and day out, took a devastating toll on their mental health. Despite all these challenges, the soldiers found solace in each other. They wove a tapestry of camaraderie and resilience, creating bonds that transcended the horrors of war. The resilience and camaraderie among soldiers were the only glimmers of hope in these trying times. The trenches of World War I were more than just a physical space. They were a symbol of the hardships endured, the daily monotony under constant threat, the resilience in the face of unsanitary and harsh conditions. The trenches bore witness to the strength of camaraderie and the depth of human sacrifice. The experiences of those soldiers echo through history, a stark reminder of the immense cost of war. The trenches were a testament to human endurance in the face of adversity, a chapter of history we should never forget.